Welcome, folks, to Gordium, where we generate, evaluate, and execute on startup ideas. So here you're kind of seeing the intersection between generate and evaluate. So we've generated this idea, which is that prediction visibility is low, and we're going to kind of brainstorm some problem or some solutions to this, and then we're going to evaluate the problem and see if we want to move forward with it. So I'm Jimmy. I'm a full stack software developer, and Neil is a manufacturing engineer.
No, I was gonna say, and I'm Neil, unemployed.
You're right. Unemployed degenerate, I think, is the right
Yeah,
way
yeah,
to say that. Lazy bum who is soon going to be hiking the world. So, yeah.
yeah. So Jimmy, why don't you explain this idea for us?
Okay. Let me.
Mostly because I still don't understand it fully.
Okay. So, prediction visibility is low. I'm thinking about. Okay, I need to add some connections. Okay, let's see. I'm thinking about anti-fragile, and really I'm thinking about skin in the game. So what I'm imagining is people can predict whatever they want, right? And the problem is like that visibility is really low. It's hard to check people unless you're like I'm gonna pull up Scott Galloway's 2022 predictions. Like he's kind of bold for putting this out here, which I think is super cool. Like, right, Scott Galloway is like kind of an exception to this rule where he has like put out his prediction, he's listed it, and he said whether it's right or wrong. You know, very few people do this, and so this is really rare. And I should probably link this too. And so I'm thinking of like skin in the game. So there's this concept from Anti-Fragile, and he turns into a whole new book, which is like you can't trust someone's predictions unless they have some skin in the game, unless they have some way of holding themselves accountable, because otherwise their prediction is bullshit. Like they have no credibility. And so what I've been thinking about is like how to put skin in the game in a really easy, clean way. And so I was thinking about betting. I'm considering working for a sports betting company, and I was just thinking about like, okay, what if like with bets, what if you put bets on the blockchain? And I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense because so many bets are placed all the time, and the blockchain is like really expensive to add new blocks to, and you don't want to just be doing that willy-nilly. So what I thought about is like, actually we have this interesting case where like a long-term prediction actually really makes sense to put on a blockchain, because um, that makes it visible. You can do some really interesting things with automation. So you could have, for example, you could predict the stock market is going to hit X price, and you could programmatically make a smart contract that automatically verifies that at a certain date, and then automatically pays out an amount for that. So you could do some really interesting smart things with blockchains and smart contracts, in terms of long-term predictions, and actually programming skin into the game. And what's really interesting is then you can make this collaborative. So basically you could sell a token, um, or sell a stake in your prediction, and other people could buy in, and then you could basically everybody could win, and you could have a large benefit for being right, basically. Does that make sense, Neil? That's kind of what I'm
Yes.
envisioning. um
That I I think there's I'm trying to find something that I think um will um connect a lot. So if you want to keep talking for a little bit,
yeah.
and give me about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just linking the 22 predictions. Like Scott Galloway is an exception to the rule. I think what's interesting about Scott Galloway's approach is how labor intensive that was. Like he had to, like, to create visibility, he had to dig up his old predictions and then evaluate them himself. So I'm going to say the solution is, and I've come a long way on this, because really I don't think I was this clear about it earlier. So I think what's really interesting about this is like how low friction this could be. So basically the solution is putting predictions on the blockchain via a smart contract that automatically like determines if you were correct and pays out automatically. And then what you can do is this allows people to buy stakes in your prediction and put skin in the game this way. So just
Yeah,
super fascinating. And then you could aggregate someone's predictions across time and show how good they are. Like, yeah.
yeah. So I was trying to find something. I thought a newsletter I subscribed to had something featured a company that was doing something similar to this. I couldn't find it, so yeah, don't
Really?
actually. Yeah, after this, I'll do some digging and maybe we can add it as a in the comments or whatever. But it's sort of what big institutional investors do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the credit default swap
What is
of
that?
that's how what the Big Short is all about. Where they created this mechanism that would basically buying insurance on the other um on what other people are doing. um
Oh,
yeah.
yes, by buying insurance against what other people
Hmm.
are doing, like by shorting it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like me buying fire insurance on Jimmy's house. um
Oh, yeah, that's
right.
really good. Yeah.
It- it's essentially what they, yeah, what this and what they were doing in that uh saga.
Yeah.
um One thing, um this sort of requires someone to sit on the other side of the transaction, right? So in
Ooh,
the
yeah.
Big Short, they were able to get the big banks to sit on the other side because they thought there was no way that the housing market was going to collapse. um
Yep.
and for this, I don't know who sits on the other side.
Yeah,
um
I don't know that you need anyone to. It's the smart contracts. Because basically what you could say is I could say, um, I am gonna make, oh, you're right though. Someone does need to
right. If I'm going to say,
yeah.
I bet $20 that I'll grow to be 7 feet in 22.
Yeah.
You will say, yep, yeah, I will pay you $20 if you do that.
Yeah.
Or I'll pay you $10,000 if you do that, because you're going to make your $20.
Yeah.
So either you get you know these tight bets people would make, I think, or at least there's potential, right?
Well, I
uh
wonder what if the funding source is buying the stakes in the like people can buy for or against. Like they could buy two different tokens. They could buy a he's gonna win token, he's gonna lose token.
so you have three parties. One party makes uh essentially the wager, and then the other people just are buying for and against it.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. You still need a third party. Yeah. I mean, if you want to do it this way, like, because you could also just say like, hey, I'm going to make a prediction and put it on the blockchain, and it'll tell me if I'm right or not, and it'll be visible to everybody, and that's
Yep.
improvement. And that's interesting in and of itself, but
Yes. Yeah. No, but again, back to the skin in the game,
yeah,
you
what's
know, even without what is the payoff for skin in the game?
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, no, that's an interesting like hole in this. I didn't really think about
Yeah.
that
No,
part. Yeah,
I like the idea of, you know, I think it'd be really fun to try to act in these predictive ways.
yeah,
Um, and it'd be fun to, you know, potentially make money from that. Um,
yeah,
but then how does that work when, you know, either you're playing on a slanted table, right? And you know, they don't, it's an uneven game. Um, you know, like a casino,
yeah,
um, you on average come out a loser. But yeah,
yeah,
so then the other party is the game maker, which you know, if that's what people, you know, I'm about to spend, you know, thousands of dollars going to South America. It's okay to spend money on things you do for fun, but
yeah,
um, yeah, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, because then you this would be really hard though, because like you might face like an unconstrained, you might not know the odds, you know. I think
unless what about instead of it's a collective futures bet, right? You can, so you know, you can buy futures of things,
yeah,
so then you just collectively act, and then you say, well, I bet that, you know, oil will be, you know, this much at the end of the year, and then you buy futures. So then you're playing in the real world where you can actually, like, it's a decently even playing field, or it's, I guess it's not a rigged playing field.
what do you mean? Could you tell me more? I don't really understand the idea. Like, so what would the setup be? Would it be like if you and I, what do you mean by collective futures?
Yeah. So say I think that um well, yeah, pretty much everything. A futures contract is just that you will buy something in the future, right?
Mhm.
So it'd be, you know, a futures contract for oil is that you would buy this amount of oil at this date. Um, or it can be corn, or it can be whatever.
Yep.
It can be currency. Um, and then you um so then some people get very good at this where they will you know, they will sense that. So again, from The Big Short, one of the groups of people that shorted the housing market, they got money because they would buy futures. So they I believe they were sort of seeing the situation in Myanmar at the time, and they thought it was going to deteriorate. So they got some futures that allowed them to profit off that. I think it was futures for the currency.
They bought they said in the future, I think it's going to go down. I'd like to buy X amount of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they got it at a discount effectively.
Yes. Yeah, basically. So if I'm a farmer, I will sell futures because it gives me money now, right?
Yeah.
I will say, okay, at this date, I will sell you my tomatoes at, my normal cost. If if you are buying tomatoes from me and you know that, you know,
The cost of,
there's a tomato blight going around
and
and
then
that
that
the
means
tomato
tomato
prices are going to go up,
I can buy it. Yeah.
you can buy the tomatoes at, at 100% of the cost and then turn around and sell them for 300%.
Yeah. So people get good at this by assuming things will be more valuable in the future than they are now. And then short sell is the opposite, right? Is that I think this is going to be less
Yeah,
valuable.
a short would be sort of the opposite. It'd be a short would be insurance in some ways.
So yeah, you could do collective futures via the blockchain. Like you could have lots of people then pile onto this and buy in. Basically, you could have a token in the futures. So you could say, hey, I have this future. How much of it do you want to own? I'm selling tokens of it. And then
Hmm.
basically that you could have two markets basically of like one is the actual futures contract, the other is the market for that futures contract.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Then you just run into the problem of what happens when usually people selling futures will, sell the futures contract before they, because if you are buying tomatoes, you probably don't want, tons and tons of tomatoes. But, a month before I need to give you your tomatoes, you would then go and sell it to whatever Heinz
Yeah,
at, 250% of the cost,
yeah,
and you would make, 150%.
it's crazy. Yeah,
But then you run into a problem on, well, a futures contract is a contract. And if there's no one to sell it to,
yeah, no, that's true.
you get to keep the tomatoes.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting question.
And then there's the option of options instead of um, futures,
Futures or short sales.
where options are just, I give you, you know, $3 now, and that gives me the right to buy, you know, if you are selling tomatoes, if I give you, 10 cents now per tomato, I would have the option to buy tomatoes in 3 months at today's price.
Yeah.
So then you don't get the problem of
You're stuck with, yeah.
getting stuck with tomatoes.
Well, maybe more options. That's fascinating. Are you ready to rate this?
Um, yeah,
All right, I'm gonna think of my ratings here. All right. I've got mine. Are you ready?
yep.
Motivation. Mine's a 1.
I give it a 0.
Okay. 0.5. Expertise.
I give it a 0.
Give it a 1. I was messing around with blockchain during the break. This would be a fun thing to build. Impacts.
I give it a 1.
Same. What does that make this?
I believe a not or not now.
So studio, yep, it's not high impact, so it's not a studio. Canvas or product track, we have to have medium to high motivation. Yep. Man, that's kind of a bummer. I like that one. I wish it was a studio, but
I think it's intriguing, sort of. I don't know. I feel like my head just went sort of round and round in circles trying to figure it out. And I don't think I really got anywhere,
yeah.
which I think is perfect for Not or Not Now.
Yes. I think that's
Hoping that it connects somewhere else and is rekindled.
yeah, because I would love to build a blockchain project. I feel like I keep hearing about. So I kept hearing about. I'm part of this thing called the Pi blockchain, um, and they had a hackathon like 6 months ago, and they're like, build stuff on top of our blockchain. And I was like, I have no idea what I build, and now I feel like I'm actually starting to get ideas, which is super fun. But
Mhm.
and this is, I think, my first legitimate blockchain based idea,
Yeah,
which is crazy, super fun.
yeah.
So I was using this thing. I'm gonna show it. It's called Truffle. Super interesting. It lets you have like a blockchain. So like this is called Ganache, and it is like a blockchain I can run locally on my like computer, and then I can test things out on this like fake little blockchain. Isn't that
Hmm.
crazy?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Truffle suite is kind of wild. Um, so I like made a pet shop on blockchain via their tutorials, which was quite excellent and fun. So they're fascinating. But all right, folks, I will not bore you with any more blockchain stuff. It has been wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.